Today on the Hustling Artist Podcast, we have Stephen Hickerson. He comes to us from New Orleans, and Stephen and I actually went to undergrad together, so I'm really excited to connect with him. Thank you for coming, Stephen. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited, and I'm glad to be here.
Oh, no. Well, I'm really excited because I've been watching you on social media, and I wanted to connect with you because I thought there were so many amazing things that you were doing, not only in your work with education, but also in your performance, your gospel artistry, your ministry of music, all these different things that you have going on, and also your publishing company. Now, what is your record label?
Gospel Renaissance Muzik Group.
Okay, Gospel Renaissance Muzik Group, which is a
Yes.
production and publication company.
It's a production and publication. It's a record label. It's whatever. We don't have a cap on it
There you
just
go.
yet.
No caps.
So whatever we want it to be.
All right, there
that's
you
what
go.
it would be.
Okay, so let's start. If you can start off by telling me a little bit of background about how you came into choir, how you came into your knowledge, and what your experiences were.
Okay, well, going back to childhood because that's where it all began. Um, Actually, my mother, actually got me in front of singing in front of people. We started singing in the kitchen. They had a broomstick.
Mm-hmm.
I was about 2 or 3 years old or something like that, and I had some little red Mickey Mouse shades on, and they had me singing in the kitchen. It was my mom and my sister.
Mm-hmm.
We were just messing around singing in the kitchen.
Okay.
So from then on, I guess they found out I can do a little something. I can sing a little bit.
Mhm.
So let's see what we got and let's take this on a little further. So I started singing at small church programs,
Okay.
family church programs. And then I started going to rehearsals with my mom, choir rehearsals on Friday nights. Out of of kids my age, I actually looked forward to Friday nights
Mhm.
rehearsal. Just to hear the choir sing, just to hear the organist play the Hammond organ, to hear the drums and the lead guitar, just to hear all of that and just to see and watch the director teach the parts and to see how all of that comes together
The energy.
and make music and make, it made it very interesting for me. You know, just the sound of the Hammond organ captured me.
Mm-hmm.
The sound of the organ, and I love the way that lady played. She actually showed me how to play. I've learned mostly by ear just from hearing her play. So if you hear me play, I have adopted her style, some of her style, even though my style still has me in it, but it still has her influence.
Mm-hmm. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Okay. So I do have a little story about, I used to love the organ too. So the organist at my church. And I used to go up to her and I want to learn how to play organ. She gave me the hymnal. She was like, go learn this. And I was like, oh, I don't know what to do with that. But because at that point, I wasn't really a good reader, so I was like on my, drums and all that kind of stuff. But that organ, and I would see her feet working. I'd be like, I have no idea how you're doing and managing all of that. So absolutely. Okay. So you were doing, you were interested in organ. You learned through
Yes.
there. Okay.
I was interested in the organ, but of course, she wanted me to learn how to play the piano first.
Okay.
Similar situation. I wasn't too much interested in the piano, even though they looked at the piano as being the fundamental instrument. If you want to play a key instrument, keyboard instrument. So I went to piano lessons for a while, off and on, but then my parents purchased a keyboard for me, so I would used to play on the keyboard and try to figure things out on my own.
Yeah.
And after so many times of doing that, I used to get frustrated sometimes because it would not connect. But one day the light came on. The light came on and I just started playing. I think I used to start off with John P. Key songs because most of John P. Key songs back then were in the key of F.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a key that I learned to play in, F, C, F, and from then the light came on with the chord structures. Everything was kind of coming together. It started to sound like something.
And how old were you? What'd you say?
Probably around 8.
Wow. Chord structures at 8 by ear. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably around 8 because I used to spend a lot of quiet time doing that. If I wasn't doing that, I was probably in my room playing, having church by myself.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So you are at 8. So how did that manifest into what you're doing now, like singing? How did you come from the piano now to singing and directing choirs?
At the age of 12, 12, 13, I started to direct the youth choir. And then I was started to play for the Louisiana Regional Choir.
Okay.
That was under the direction of Walter Tardy. And it was all youth. It was about a 200-voice youth choir.
Wow.
That traveled from Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and Texas. Those were the regional states that we've traveled in. We would go to each other state every other year.
Okay.
So we kind of trade off those states and where we go. It was a convention. And it's still going on to this day. But that's why I pretty much got my foundation of actually being in front playing the organ for other people, for the choirs and things like that. By the age of 12, 13, 11, 12, 13, yeah.
Okay. So you're putting it together as an entire, basically, music director in a way.
I started off directing the choir, standing up directing the youth choir at my home church. But then at that same time, I still had the gift to sing, and I was developing this gift to play.
Right, exactly.
So in my developing, I was at a point where I was getting good enough to actually cover the service or to at least get the service through if our organist or musician had to be out.
Right.
And that also, it's like teaching somebody how to swim. You put them, it was kind of like throwing me in the water.
Yes.
And I just had to go for it.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, trial and error.
That's interesting because that was the same way that I learned. Oh, Ken can't be here today. Can you come up and play the drums?
Yeah.
And it's like, sure,
Yeah.
but absolutely. But okay, so let's talk a little bit about, so at 12, 13, you're directing the youth choir. And so what happens from there as you're going into your high school years, as you're kind of deciding what's going to happen with your career? What's going on there?
As I'm going into my high school years, I get my first church gig, not really gig, but first church employment, I should say, at Christian Unity Baptist Church. It was a small church. I started out, making probably about $25 a Sunday.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. So from Christian Unity, then I would go from Christian Unity to my home church. My home church would pay me as well. I think when I officially became the organist or the director for the youth, I think I was making about $350. And so I was beginning to make money on my own as a young teen going into my high school, years. So by the time I've been through not so many churches, but a good bit, but each round I went, each church I've grown more and more in my musical language, in my musical playing. Everything has matured.
Absolutely.
So I've gotten better. So when you get better, you become more marketable.
Right.
And when you become better, other people see you, they're going to want you to do this. They're going to want you to play for their church.
Right.
So that's how I was able to get to Fifth African Baptist Church. I played for a lot of different other churches. Leading up into 2005, I was at Bountiful Harvest Full Gospel Baptist Church of New Orleans, right before Hurricane Katrina. Yep. So I've done some good work in New Orleans. You know, I've led many choirs, played for many choirs, played for many churches.
That's great. Now, okay, so this begs the question for me. Now, as a gospel artist, not necessarily your track, because I feel like you encompass a lot of different artistries, right? So singing, playing, piano, directing, all of those different things. But say, for instance, I'm just like a kid out there in a service, and I know I want to sing, or I know I want to be in this choir or that choir. What is the path for a gospel artist, and how do they get out there to be able to do those types of things?
Well, for a gospel artist, I can say my path. I was always involved in music. I was in school chorus.
Sure. From
elementary up to my college years. It has to be a passion. It has to be. Now, singing gospel, that is a choice.
Right.
That is a preference.
Right.
But to do anything, to sing gospel, R&B, jazz, opera, that all has to be a passion about it. So it all has to be cultivated from somewhere. It has to come from within. That has to be something that you want to do without, if they don't give me a dime, that's something I'll still do.
Absolutely.
Because I enjoy it.
Gotcha.
It feeds me. You know, it heals me. So, yeah.
So we don't really take the same path in terms of thinking about art in the gospel arena versus in the secular arena. It's a different type of experience.
It depends. Because a lot of people who become artists, singers especially, when we're singing, we're here to tell a story through music. And gospel is more telling you more of a spiritual background of a story, including with your life circumstances as well, life struggles as well, versus singing R&B. You're singing about life circumstances, but it may be in a more love, relationship, abuse way. But even on the gospel side, we speaking of a love and abuse way, because most people who become artists and who give you the best music, when people say that singers and musicians are weird, we're weird for a reason, because majority of us have probably encountered something in our early life that was very traumatic. And that stuck with us, and we didn't have a voice to express ourselves. So living through that, you know, I prayed, God gave me the gift of music and to sing it in gospel. And that's, you know, having that passion, having that anointed sound, that anointed feel at an early age, because for one thing, it's coming, what I'm singing to you and who I'm singing about is coming from deep within. So it's about your walk, as in when you become an artist, it's about your walk. Now, there are some people who just want to become an artist overnight.
Right.
But they haven't put no work, no time in.
Right. It's a lot of work and time, huh?
It's
a lifetime of it.
Time, especially in gospel. Prayer.
Right.
Because it's everybody wants to be an artist. They want to get the fame and the glory and all of that, but they don't understand the industry.
Right. Yes.
I'm gonna go to the flip side. Okay, you're safe in the church.
Right. Okay.
You know, kinda. You know, it depends on where you are. They got some churches who will probably take you for a walk and take you for a run and use you.
Right.
Okay, instead of the Lord using you. You know what I mean? But the industry, on the other hand, if you don't know anything or know somebody who is going to look out for you, who knows the industry, you will be taken.
Right. And I think that's synonymous with the other industry as well.
You will be taken. That's either gospel, that's anything. If you don't know anything business and how this is supposed to go, or have somebody that you can trust that can give you knowledge and background on the do's and don'ts, this is what you need to know, this is what you don't need to know, or that they're just trying to get your money that way. That if you don't have somebody like that to cultivate you and groom you in the industry, you'll be taken.
I had an uncle, because we're so passionate about doing what it is that we want to do. So I had an uncle, beautiful singer. I mean, had a voice, sounds like Luther, on everybody's weddings. And he just wanted to sing, and he would invest his money in all kinds of different places. There are all kinds of home studios that'll say, we'll record you. There are all kinds of contracts that he's been in with people who take his money, record him, then he can't get his music back, or he'll send me a contract and I don't understand what it is that he's done or anything like that. But it makes us very vulnerable, especially when we're in places and spaces where we're not taken care of. Not that I want to flip the script, but I do want to talk a little bit about the different jobs, right? So I want to talk a little bit about your ministry of music.
Okay.
And I want to talk about the role of a minister of music and how you support this service. I'm really interested in that.
Okay, the role of a minister of music. Oh, my. Well, the minister of music is in charge of all things music related when it comes to the service. The minister of music is basically the pastor over the music and arts.
Okay.
So as we pray and listen to God, we have to teach his people based off of what God has told us. And we also have to submit to the shepherd of that house, the under shepherd of that house, which is the pastor. So we have to connect and agree and fall in line with the vision of the pastor and carry that out musically.
Okay.
So a minister of music is more than just getting in front of the choir or just having Thursday nights rehearsal and just teaching songs.
Sure.
No, I have to know the temperament of the church, because certain churches you can go to, I can't sing Ricky Dillard, but I can do Mississippi Mass.
Absolutely. I understand.
You have to know what the temperament of that house is, because you going over here doing all the Ricky Dillard and the James Hall and all that J.J. Harrison and Youth for Praise, they don't understand that just yet. They're not there yet. You have to groom them. It's, because each church you go to is on a different level.
Right.
So you just have to differentiate, how you choose and how you teach, what you teach. And okay, let's say the church where I am now, we have about five or six different choirs or groups. We have a senior choir, youth choir, young adult choir, mass choir, male chorus, and adult praise team. So each of those groups have a different repertoire. Because each of those groups have a different age group and a different sound. So I can't do the same thing I do with the young adults with the senior choir.
Gotcha.
So you have to do a lot of differentiation with, picking your music, your styles in music. For my youth, you pick younger stuff, your Kirk Franklins, your stuff that they can relate to. Your young adults, I can probably do the Ricky Dillard and stuff with them. Senior choir, you go back to I do the old Charles Nix and James Cleveland. I go back to their era of where they met the Lord.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's like you have to be able to cater to everybody.
Got you.
You know, you can't just be one-dimensional. Like some of these churches now, they just have a praise team and that's it. Praise and worship, that's all you get.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't feed everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feed everybody. I have a praise team for that reason. That's why I told my praise team, I don't want you guys to sing quartet music because you're not a quartet. You're a praise and worship team. You are to usher people into the presence of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Quartet, we can do that anytime.
Wow.
That's something you all know.
Wow. Okay. So you just educated me because I've been so I'm from Mississippi originally. So my grandparents in little town So Mississippi had, you know, the smaller churches, and we used revival constantly all summer long, all kinds of different churches. And then when we moved to Atlanta, it was a completely different experience. And me being a young musician, like I was influenced by that. You know, I could see, I was like, okay, I understand that there's a difference. I understand that this is like more, well, back then I was like upbeat, and, you know, they got the drummer, because in Mississippi, you might have had a drummer, you might have not. It might have just been piano accompaniment and a choir. So it's just a really different experience. But I like what you're saying about the rep, because what we don't often do is give, and please correct me if I use anything terminology out in the wrong way, but we don't give ministers of music their due in terms of their intellectual approach and everything that they have to know in order to serve a church that has so many ensembles like you have. Or even just as simple, if you're a guest artist going to a church, just understanding that you just can't come with your, you know, 6 songs that you want to sing, and that before no research, anything like that, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Great point.
Yeah.
Great point. And this is for artists. You know, you have to scan the house that you're going to. Either do some work. Let's say if you got a booking to sing at Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church. Okay, the name may sound old, but it may be, the church may not be old fashioned. They may be up to date just with an old name. So you still have to do your research. If they have a website, search, do some YouTube clips, see what their service is like, because they have different, you have to know the crowd, or know the temperament of the church of where you're going, because I can go somewhere that's pro young. Amazing Grace won't do there. If it is, it's a certain way I would have to do it.
Right. See, that's not.
It's not that I have to scratch the hymn out completely. I just can't go in there and just sing it their old standard way.
Yeah.
You know, if they're a praise and worship type of church, I may have to, you know, add something to it, soothe it out a little bit, or no telling what I would do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's just being a psalmist, being a minstrel, or tap into the glory of God, into God, into that presence, and come up with something, you know, right on the fly. He'll give you a song on the fly that will just blow the minds of. It'll just take you out. So that's just how God moves. But the thing is, no, we can't be one-dimensional when it comes to singing at different places and stuff like that. No.
Okay, so let me sing your praises a little bit. All right, can you talk a little bit? Give me a couple of really great experiences, artists that you've worked with, some of the opportunities that you've been afforded because of all the work and the blessings that you've had. Can you tell me a little bit about and the people, a little bit about what you've gotten the chance to experience?
Yes, let me think back. Let me really think back. Artists that I've got to work with, Miranda Curtis, definitely. I've worked with Miranda Curtis for a total of 3 years, I believe. Singing background from Miranda Curtis. I've actually learned a lot from Miranda Curtis as a praise and worship leader. I've learned a lot from Miranda Curtis spiritually. Ricky Dillard. Ricky Dillard. Ricky Dillard is literally, if somebody asks me who's my favorite artist, that's my first answer. That's my number one, Ricky Dillard. Yes, Ricky Dillard and New G, that's a choir. That is my favorite I loved choirs. I grew up on choirs. That was the first thing I was really introduced to was a choir. So that's what I love. I love Ricky Dillard's approach to gospel. You know, I've worked with even Lucretia Campbell. I've sung a song behind Lucretia Campbell, also with Dorinda Clark Cole, sung background, did house background vocals for the Gospel Superfest. And so that afforded me to sing background for several people. I've had the opportunity to sing behind so many. The list goes on. Fred Hammond. It just goes on.
I wrote some down for you.
Crystal Aiken.
Bishop Morton.
Bishop Paul S. Morton, yes.
Dottie Peoples.
Dottie Peoples, yes.
Bishop Hezekiah Walker.
Yes.
Fred Hammond.
Yes.
Yolanda Adams.
Yes.
And our favorite, Dr. Oral Moses.
Yes.
So, I think that one of the things that's really amazing is because when you're on the other side, when you're in the congregation and you go to service to just experience the service and to take what you take, you don't really understand. And this is from somebody who's a musician who is actually in an industry. You don't understand how these people become to be who they are and what they have to go through to do that. So one of the things, as I was watching your social media, as we departed from undergrad together, and I'm watching social media, I was like, go ahead, Stephen, go ahead. Because you really don't know. But I thought that it was an amazing accomplishments that you had to date, and then they're going to keep going, right? So the last thing that I want us to discuss is I'm really interested in your music, what you've released and what you have coming up, and then also talk a little bit about your production company and how that has helped you with the business side of the industry that you talk about.
Okay, well, first, I do have a current single that has been released in 2017 called Reset. It is available on all digital outlets, iTunes, Amazon, Google Play Store. It is called Reset by Stephen Hickerson. You can find it if you just put in that Google search. It will come up. On your Google search, you'll see my face everywhere. And also upcoming, I'm in the studio now working with Grammy Award-winning producers and Grammy Award-winning studio, Chance Parkman, and I'm also at Patchwork Studio, Patchwork's recording studio here in Atlanta. And also, I started my own label, me and a partner of mine, a business partner. We started this label. It was his idea. So I wasn't even thinking about that. So that's what I mean by you got to have somebody in your corner who could kind of push you to where, you're not even thinking about. Somebody who's done what you're trying to do, and it's nothing to them to get you to where you're trying to go. It seems like it's unattainable, unreachable for me trying to get there. But if you hang around somebody who's already been there and listen to what they have to say, the do's and the don'ts, because sometimes, let me tell you, some people would call saying some such and such and such and such and such and such, offering me this, offering me that. My business partner would tell me, or my manager would tell me what this person wanted before I even, as soon as I got off,
could tell you him.
And he didn't even hear the conversation. This is how much he's been in the industry. I'm going to shout him out a little bit. His name is DeMarco Tudor.
Okay.
He's been out of it for a while, but he's gotten back in, and he's in there with me. So, yes. So he helped start Gospel Renaissance Muzik Group. Yes. So Gospel Renaissance Muzik Group is a joint effort. Yes, I am CEO. Yes, he's partner and, part CEO, all of that. So we just doing this thing together and just seeing where God leads.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And for me, because I'm interested in that world, how did you, or how did he convince you and say, Steven, why release music under somebody else's label, and why not just create your own? How did he convince you to do that?
Like I said, knowing the industry, knowing what it takes, and it really doesn't take much.
Oh wow.
No.
Yeah.
No. And that's a lot of things that we think record label, we think that you have to start off with millions of dollars and you have to start off with this huge catalog. No, because all of them didn't start that way.
Right, absolutely.
So you just have to start by doing your necessary paperwork.
That's it. And release something. Let it go.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the hardest part.
It is.
Yeah. That's the hardest part, is letting it go out in the world. But, well, I want to thank you.
And knowing how to let it go.
Yeah.
Letting it go legally to where you get the right credits for it. Because that's what I learned about a lot of artists. They don't know what to do, how to copyright music, how to register your music with ASCAP or BMI or what a publishing company.
Right.
Or CSAC, how to register with these different agencies, like agencies for different award shows and stuff like that. You have to put yourself in those markets. BDSM, Nielsen. This is how you gain ratings. This is how you chart your music. Because if you just put it out, it's going to sit there.
So you have to actually put it. Now give me a little example now. Okay, give the people a little taste of what you mean.
If you just put, let's say if you put it on TuneCore. TuneCore is a digital distribution for independent artists. Well, big artists use them too sometimes. But TuneCore is digital distribution for those who don't have distribution deals and those who are underground and independent artists. If you can do TuneCore, but TuneCore is just what it is.
It's just going to put it out.
It's just distribution. It's just going to put it out there. But if you don't go back and do your necessary paperwork for Nielsen and BDSM and all of those other different organizations that take it further, to make it count.
Okay. So those numbers, those streams.
Those stream numbers can get calculated and count. So that's where the other work come in. And a lot of people don't know where to go because a lot of that stuff is hard to find, but it's not.
Right.
You just have to park yourself, research it, and have some patience.
There you go.
Because it is not to a point where it's easy to find, because the reason being for that, record labels don't want you to find that kind of stuff.
Because if you had it, you could do it.
If you had it, you can do it. And that takes food out of their mouth.
Right.
It takes gas out of their Bentley.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for coming by because you have educated me and inspired me, because I've always been interested in production and labels and things like that. But I'm also really interested. I also like to bring light to all programming with all musicians. And can you tell us what your degree was in at Kennesaw?
I have received a Bachelor of Arts in Music.
So and Steven, just as we're finishing up, so they had me play the drum set for the gospel choir at Kennesaw, but that was a long time ago. So I was like, y'all want me to play? Are you sure you want me to play? But I had a lot of fun, and I had the opportunity to meet you and Casey. And Dr. Moses. Dr. Moses was just like I still talk about him. I talked about him last week to somebody. Like, I see him all the time. I'm like, well, Dr. Moses, but like, I just, I appreciate sometimes when you come into meeting someone, what the relationship can do and how that can change you. So I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate you sharing your story with me. And I am going to be watching you and in full support of everything that you got going on.
Thank you. And if there's, anybody out here who's listening, if you want to follow me on social
there
media,
you go. Plug it.
Facebook, I'm Stephen Hickerson. I have Stephen Hickerson page 2, the Roman numeral 2. And I also have Stephen Hickerson Music fan page, and I have Gospel Renaissance Muzik Group.
Okay.
And on Instagram, you can find me at the Stephen Hickerson, TheStephenHickerson. And on Twitter, I am SC Hickerson, Hickerson.
Okay, and we'll link all that too in our description.
Thank you.
All right, well, you have a great day, and we're going to have a great day. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right.
This is only the beginning.